back, listeners and viewers, to another week of education, the Teachers Talk You Terror podcast, where myself, Mike,
and myself, Courtney,
are back to talk about another scratch-off horror film. This week, we are covering the 1959 William Castle hit, House on Haunted Hill, starring Vincent Price and a whole bunch of other people, but really just Vincent Price. That's the only one that matters. Are you familiar with Vincent Price at all?
Sure. Yeah, what you told me last week.
Yeah, Vincent Price was... did you ever see Edward Scissorhands?
No.
Okay. The Thriller video? Michael Jackson's Thriller?
No.
Oh, my. Well, Vincent Price is new to
yes.
to Courtney here, ladies and gentlemen. Horror fan, by the way. Courtney, who doesn't know who Vincent Price is. Such a baby.
I know.
So, that's all right. How you been? I feel like, even though I only posted like the Jacob's Ladder episode like less than a week ago, I feel like we haven't recorded in quite a while.
I know. It's been so crazy.
Yeah, it has been for sure.
I mean, first of all, teachers, we are in the midst of between Thanksgiving and Christmas, which is the longest
oh my gosh
/ fastest 2.5, 3 weeks of our lives. And then basketball season has started for us, which my husband coaches. So it's like, yeah, that's no life here.
Right.
And yeah, so it's just, wow.
I hear you. Like, ours is pretty busy as well. You know, even when we get done recording, we thankfully were blessed with a forgiven half day of school due to staff illnesses or whatever.
I was going to say, but only because everyone was sick.
Yeah, I know. So it's like we've got to go ring the bell for the Salvation Army later on. And then my son's got basketball practice. My daughter's playing in the pep band. It's just like nonstop business. And yeah, it is what it is. So House on Haunted Hill, again, one of the older movies we've watched in a while, which is okay. Made a ton of money. By its standards. Budget for this movie was like $200,000 and it made like $2.5 million. But in 1959 money, that's a lot of money.
And you know what? Honestly, comparing this to some of the other older movies, I enjoyed this movie. I could see sitting in the theater, this movie kind of scaring me with some of the jump scares and just some of sitting in a theater seat. And like you had said, if there was a skeleton with red beady eyes in the corner of the theater, yeah, that would startle me a little bit. Because I'm one of those people. Wow, I just about said I'm one of those persons. Oh, it's Friday. I am one of those people that I love going to haunted houses, but I scream the entire
although it really changes the dynamic. This movie starts out with completely dark screen and just really loud haunted house kind of music, which in watching it today wasn't a big deal because we're sitting I'm sitting in my living room. Mm-hmm. You're watching it on the iPad, not a big deal. But when this movie's in theaters, this was back in the 50s where when they dropped the house lights, it was just dark. Mm-hmm. And so this really was one of the first movies that kind of introduced that haunted house soundtrack kind of vibe to where it probably was terrifying sitting in a completely dark movie theater with no lighting. And then all of this chain rattling and ghost sounds. And it probably was really scary for these people.
Do you know what and you might not think this, but the beginning of this movie, where the head kind of popped up and it was just kind of talking to us. It reminded me of when you go on the Tower of Terror or when you're going into the Twilight Zone and they're talking, those kind of rides. It reminded me of the beginning of that ride. It kind of took me back to Disney and stuff like that. I was like, oh, kind of sentimental, but not not sentimental.
Right, I know what you mean.
But yeah, I just kind of felt like I was getting ready to go on a ride, which
it just I've seen the remake of this movie. I hadn't seen this one, but I agree with you. It's just a fun movie.
Yeah, it was.
You know, Is it scary by today's standards? Absolutely not. There are a couple jump scares in
Yeah.
this though that I was like, oh, that was pretty good. But the premise of this movie is really simple.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Frederick, a millionaire, who's throwing a party for his wife in a haunted house. And apparently so many people have been murdered in this house. That's why it's haunted. That he's told all of the party goers, I suppose, anybody makes it all night, I'll give you $10,000. Like, oh, okay. Like, that would be a little over $100,000 today.
Yeah.
I did the math because I'm a nerd.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like, you think, oh, you're a millionaire and you're offering up
Yeah.
$10,000. They even comment on that in the movie, that it's like $10,000 to this guy's nothing, but it's $10,000
Yeah.
to you, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's having a party, and you guys could stay, and they're all strangers to one another. They're kind of all over different walks of life too. Like, there's no way out of the house. There's no radios. There's no phones. Once you're here, you're here.
Yeah.
And if you could survive the night, $10,000. Yeah. So our people are, there's Lance. He was like a pilot or something. Ruth Bridges worked for the newspaper. There was a psychiatrist. And then Nora Manning, who we see a lot. Poor Nora. We see a lot of Nora.
Yeah.
She works for one of Frederick's companies. And then the guy who actually owns the house, Watson, he's the one that's like, guys, this place is legit haunted. Like, so many people have died.
Yeah.
Here. And that's it. Like, the movie's only a little over an hour long, hour and 15 or so. So it just kind of throws us right in there of like, you guys are all here for this reason, and go. We do find a little bit about the Lawrence relationship. He's married to what appears to be, I won't call her a much younger woman, but younger. Yeah. You know, kind of a beautiful blonde, Annabelle. And I'm sure, like a lot of millionaires, he's so anxious about his wealth. And that's where he's at with her. He is certain that she's trying to kill him so that she can get his money.
And I don't know if you said this, but this is his fourth wife.
Oh, no, I missed that part.
You might have already said this.
No, I didn't.
So, I mean, he's been married a few times already. And, like you said, like, he's like, you're trying to kill me, you know, you're trying to off me.
I know what you're doing.
Yeah. And she's like, oh my goodness, no.
Right.
Yeah. And he's throwing her this party, and she wanted this party, but she wanted it to be with her friends, not with strangers. And so she doesn't even want to go down there.
Yeah. So he's like, I've invited 5 people and you don't know who they are.
Yeah. Like, okay.
And so, yeah, he's convinced that she's trying to get his money. Watson he's literally telling everybody, guys, you know, like, so many people have been murdered here. My own brother, right? Almost was killed here. Like, I found him the next day. Like, he's really ramping up the horror and hauntedness of this house. Gives a tour, and we come across what I know. Do you have a basement in your home?
Yes.
Okay, I do too. You have a giant vat of acid hidden, don't you, in your basement?
100%, yes.
I mean, I think they pretty much come with the territory. Yeah. So Watson unveils this big vat of like floor acid. It's deep. It's like an in-ground pool in the basement filled with just acid. And he says that the people that used to live here, he killed his wife in this vat of acid. Okay. It's like,
and they acid, just have like animals laying around to show.
Yeah, like taxidermied animals.
Yeah, like, here's just a dead animal to throw in there to show that.
Yeah, just watch.
Yeah, and the bones are just going to float right back up. No fur, hair, anything.
Because it's acid. It's a whole vat.
All right, there you go.
I haven't played around with acid a whole lot. When acid does chew through things, like when he threw that animal in there, where does the fur and stuff go?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it doesn't just disappear. It's matter. Not to get too educational, but
I don't know. I mean, but does it just like turn into the steam and
possibly.
go?
But it's still, you figure it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know that. But I don't think it makes the bones look like pure plastic, but this acid did.
No, well, it's strong acid.
Yeah, it is.
You must not have this kind of acid in your basement vat.
I don't have this kind of acid.
You'll get there. You need to live there a little
longer. A couple more years, maybe.
Yeah. So while Watson's giving a tour, Lance and Nora stay behind. They're going to further explore the basement a little bit. Lance gets locked in an empty room because this basement is gigantic.
Yeah.
So many rooms in this basement. He gets locked in a room and he gets hit on the head. Nora, who didn't realize she was separated from Lance, like she's standing in a doorway and like a ghostly figure in another room kind of like comes out of the darkness. It totally looked like it was just on like one of those like floor skateboard things.
Skateboards, yes.
That like you would play with in elementary school with all the
the little V type things.
So it comes rolling forward enough to scare her and then rolls back away. And so that's kind of our first interaction. And it is pretty hokey and cheesy. But it's still fun. Like, oh, look at you know. I don't know why. It's like nothing in this movie should have worked, but it was still just fun.
Yeah, it did.
Lance he's freed, whatever. Annabelle and Lance, they're having a conversation. And Annabelle is equally suspicious of Frederick.
Yes.
That she's like, I think he's up to something. I'm pretty sure he murdered his second and his third wife.
Well, yeah, when they just... I'm sorry, but... when your first wife just disappears and then your second and your third wife die.
You're suspect.
Okay, like I have bad luck, but my luck's not that bad.
No. and so Frederick is, again, worried she's going to take his money. Well, she's worried he's going to take her life.
Yeah.
And so, again, the tour of the house is now over. They're all reconvened like downstairs where they're going over the rules to the party. Because it's a party. You clearly have to have rules.
Yeah.
They're each given a gun, which I thought was cute because they roll out a bunch of these like small caskets, open them up, and they each have this just like a handgun in it for protection because guns shoot ghosts.
Yeah.
Nora, again, gets stranded from the group, and what probably is the scariest moment in the movie, like we see her trying to like pound on the wall, and as she like turns, like there's another there's an old lady ghost like right in her face.
This one did get me. Like I'm just sitting there and
it was well done because she was pretty grotesque looking. Like it was. I held the camera there long enough to be like, yeah, that's uncomfortable to look at.
Yep.
And then she takes off on her skateboard.
Mm-hmm.
So Nora is like, I'm done. I am not hanging out. I'm not staying the night. And as she tries to go, she finds out that the door was locked like 5 minutes ago. So nobody can leave anymore. Like that was your last chance. And the caretakers are gone. So, sorry, Nora, you got to stay. And it's like, nothing happens on screen either. We hear another scream. And a couple of the guys take off to go investigate the scream. And they find Annabelle dead. The wife, like Frederick's wife. She's hung herself, like, right there in the stairwell.
Mm-hmm.
But... because there was nothing for her to like stand on first, they're like, she was murdered. She had to have been murdered because if she committed suicide, she would have had to step off of something. And so it's just kind of chaos at this point. Nora, goes to Lance, and he's like, I saw someone strangle her. I saw somebody was strangling her and left her to die. So now everybody is suspecting Frederick. Like, everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
Understandably so, because again, he's lost 3 wives at this point.
And she's been kind of rubbing his name in the dirt some, so.
Right. We find out that, let's see, I lost my notes here. Oh, yeah. Lance and David.
Yes, this is where they're like, you know what? The rest of the night, everyone stay in their room.
Yeah.
And because
somebody here is a murderer.
Yes.
We don't know who.
Yep.
So everybody just stay in your room until the end of the night.
Yeah.
And we'll all get out of here.
No one will be murdered because the person who is the murderer will stay in their room.
Yeah.
And the people who would potentially be murdered will be in their rooms.
Right.
So,
all right. So we'll all get out of here with our money.
And it's a foolproof plan because
it really is.
Everyone's going to stay in their room until they don't
none
stay
of them
in their
do.
room.
Until none of them do.
Because Nora, of course, is chased by Annabelle's ghost.
Right. Comes to her window.
Room. Yes.
Yeah. And
it has like this thick rope, and it's like Annabelle's ghost is floating outside of her window and like wrapping this rope around her legs and like bringing her into the basement.
I don't blame Nora for taking off.
Yeah, I don't either. Like, I would be running as well.
Yeah.
To where David then gets out and leaves the room.
Because he hears all of these noises, so he assumes that the killer is out.
Yes. And so him and Frederick are like, all right, let's go, like, separate because someone's screaming. They might not have much time. So him and Frederick go and search.
Yeah.
Lance now has found a room.
Yeah, another secret room in this house.
And he's now trapped in it because the spirits have shut the door behind him.
Of course, as they do.
Yep. And David, now we've got our first little twist of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a few of those, which this one did get me because like Frederick had met. No. Or was it David that met with Annabelle a few times? And it was like, we're almost done, my dear. Like, it's almost over. And I'm just like...
No, it was Frederick.
Okay,
Frederick,
and I'm like, dude, she's dead. Why are you talking to her? Like, that's kind of weird, but whatever. And so David now meets with Annabelle. And this is where, like, it comes out that she had, like, this harness on her and she just...
Yeah.
Like faked her death, and
she and David have concocted a plan.
Yes, because she confided in him earlier. Yes,
she's like, get this hanging harness off me. Yeah. So, like you said, David and Annabelle are an item.
Yes.
Frederick obviously doesn't know about it.
Yes.
And so, they are trying to kind of frame Frederick for the murder. I don't like.
They want Nora to kill Frederick.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And which is poor Nora.
I know, because she's already struggling.
Yeah. And so, they've got, like you said, they got this plan. We're going to get Nora into a situation to where she thinks the killer's after her. The killer's going to be Frederick, and she's got to kill Frederick.
Yes. So in the basement, Nora is in there. Frederick walks in. Nora assumes that he's the killer. She shoots him. He falls into the vat of acid.
Well, he fell dead.
Yes, fell dead.
And then David.
Yes.
After she takes off, David comes in the room And this is where he throws Frederick's body into the acid.
Correct.
But then the lights go out.
Yeah, the lights go out. So, sorry, it's kind of jumbled. So
it's all right.
Annabelle then comes in to like double check kind of that Frederick's dead. And when she's looking into this vat of acid, Frederick's like body skeleton arises from the acid.
Because we know this acid will eat everything but bone.
That's right.
So like you said, his skeleton just rises up.
Yeah.
And much like Poltergeist, actual real human skeleton.
But it's obviously not his skeleton because he was like 6'2" and now he's like 5'9".
Don't be that way.
But it bothered me so much because when he went up behind her, he was shorter than her.
It ate away the cartilage in his spinal column.
Whatever.
I'm
like, oh.
that ruined it.
Yeah.
And the skeleton is still speaking in Frederick's voice.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, you got my body, you've got everything, but you won't be able to have it.
And then shoves her into the vat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only for the second plot twist to kind of come out.
Yeah. Frederick comes out behind like this double door kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's holding like a remote control for the skeleton puppet. And he's known about the plot the whole time.
Yeah. He
knew that Annabelle and David were lovers. He knew what she was up to. He's been on to it the whole time. And so everybody else lets Lance out of that secret room. And then they all, this is where, Nora, Watson, and Ruth, which there's not very many characters in this movie, but there's almost too many characters.
Yeah.
Because, like, Ruth had nothing to do in this movie.
Right. Like, the only thing that mattered was she got blood dropped on her, and who cares?
Yeah. Lance really had nothing to do in this movie.
He was just a drinker.
Yeah. Watson was just the homeowner. Like, it just seemed like...
Oh, wait, or was he the drinker? See, I can't even keep track of him.
Yeah, but it just seemed like almost too many people.
Yeah.
So they release Lance, and then they all... Nora tells them, I killed Frederick. Frederick's dead. They all go down to the cellar, and this is where they see Frederick.
Yeah.
Frederick's like, hey, y'all, I loaded Nora's gun with blanks. Because, again, he knew the plot. He knew all along that Nora was going to be the one to try and kill him. Don't know how he knew it, but he knew it. Probably read her emails back in 1959.
Yeah.
And so Frederick's like, Nora's gun was loaded with blanks. David and Annabelle were trying to kill me. They both fell in the vat of acid. So sorry. And he even said, like, I'm ready. Like, I'm going to arrest me, send me to court. Let's see if I'm innocent or guilty. Watson is even more convinced now that 2 more people have died in the house. He's never going to be able to sell this house.
No.
So he's convinced that, and he kind of breaks down the fourth wall and talks right to us. Yeah. That, David and Annabelle now in the ranks of ghosts, and he looks right at us. Yeah. I'll be the next victim, or maybe it's you. And we're like, oh no.
Oh no.
Not me. And that's it. That's House on Haunted Hill. Not really scary, but definitely a horror film.
It was a good watch, though.
It was fun. Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun movie. You could watch it in its entirety on Wikipedia. Because despite making a ton of money, the producers let it slip into public domain. So now anybody could do anything with this movie. Like, I could burn it to DVDs and try to sell it to kids in school if I wanted to. Yeah. Be a quick way to make $1 or $2. Hey kids, you want to see the scariest movie you've ever seen?
Yeah.
Sell them this for $2. And so, House on Haunted Hill. If you had to grade this movie, Courtney, what would you grade it?
I'm going to give it a B+, just because it was fun to watch. It was good. It did have a little jump scare in there. It didn't really, like, the rest of it didn't scare me, But it
Right.
didn't, like, it wasn't boring though. I mean, and it was simple and it got to the point. So,
Fair enough. I'm going to go B for a lot of the same reasons you just said. Um, it was it was fun. I love Vincent Price. It was a fun movie, and it's like hour and 15 minutes. It's like perfect.
yeah.
You know, you just get right in, right out. They weren't fluffing it with a whole bunch of extras. It just was, here's your movie. The remake, made 40 years later, 1999, it clocks in at just an hour. It's like 18 minutes longer, and it made a ton of money too. It more than doubled its budget, and it's got like the most 90s cast you could find, but which none of these people, you won't have a clue who they are. So
Probably not.
But yeah, it's same premise, only he's going to give them $1 million to stay the night.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, you give it a B plus. I'll give it a B. Any lessons to take from this film?
Honestly, yeah. So I'm gonna say this film, in my opinion, is kind of karma, just because they got what was coming for them. And recently, I have had someone in my life that experienced a little bit of karma, and I just think that karma. I am a firm believer in karma, because what comes around, what goes around comes around, and I think that
what comes around comes around.
Yeah, what comes around comes around. Yeah, I had to think about that. I said it's been a week, okay?
It has.
And I don't know. I just think that's why you should always try and be a good person.
I agree.
And you should always just really try and do the most for others, because you never know what might be done for you or what might come back and bite you in the butt.
Fair enough. I'm going to go with the lesson. If an opportunity seems too good to be true, it probably is. And so here's the situation where you're told, hey, come stay the night in this house and I'll give you $10,000. There's probably red flags.
Yeah.
You should investigate those red flags before you're like, oh, piece of cake, I'm going to jump at that opportunity. Because while they all did, well, all but David, leave with $10,000, like, it was a rough night for him. And so that would be mine, is make sure you're weighing the pros and cons of situations if they seem a little too good to be true.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, that was fun. What do you want to, let's see. This was a scratch off. What order were we going in?
So it's a shuffle, but do you want to do Scream 6?
Yes. Because my daughter has asked me a couple times today even. So when are we doing the next Scream movie? When are we doing the next Scream movie? So yeah, we could do that. If we'll flip-flop it, and like I said, that'll be my pick, and then we'll do yours and then shuffle. I don't care. But yeah,
I would say we can use it as a shuffle even, because
that works. That works too.
I mean, I like the Scream movies, so
right. Well, let's see. Just out of curiosity,
unless the shuffle would have been
right,
a really good movie,
I'm gonna hit a shuffle just to see what may have been. How's that sound?
Okay.
Let me get to my genres here. Horror. If we were to have shuffled, we would have gone back even further to 1932. And we would have watched a movie that clocks in at 1 hour and 2 minutes. We would have watched the movie Freaks. It is a very notorious movie, I want to say.
Didn't even know they made movies in the 30s.
Yeah. Wizard of Oz was like 1939.
Yeah, true.
So Todd Browning, who made the original Dracula, this movie called Freaks, very, like I said, very short, but it takes place at a traveling carnival, a traveling circus, in which one of the reasons why this movie is so notorious is because taking place at a circus, they play on like the freak show aspect of circuses, only they used like actual people that would have quote unquote been in those freak shows as like cast in the movie. So you've got little people, you've got they used to call them pinheads. I know that's completely wrong to say. I just don't know what the word would be now. You've got Siamese twins. You've got like a bearded lady, but like people that legit are afflicted with these birth defects and issues. And so they're all like stars in this movie. The one, Prince Randian, is the one that I'm a big fan of. He's got no arms and no legs. He's just a torso.
Okay, I looked it up on IMDb, and yeah.
It's a really good movie, and I think, it really is a good movie, but it got a lot of flack because of what they were portraying.
Right.
Because there's like no special effects. It was like we have little people, and you can only imagine back in the 30s, like those people were still taboo and no. Like, they're freaks, according, I feel bad saying it because it's like it's 2023.
Right.
Like this isn't how I speak, but
correct. They're normal now. I mean,
they'd be accepted by society.
Yes.
But back then they were outcasts, they were circus fodder.
Yeah.
And to put them in a movie, people were subjected to it, and it's just they were so like your typical moviegoer was so ignorant that they were like, "Oh, I can't watch this."
Wait, was a bearded lady just like a transgender person?
It may have been, yeah.
Because I'm just looking at the picture and I'm like, that's just like a man in a dress.
Yeah.
Oh. Huh.
But there were people there. I mean, there were women that had a lot of hair growth. So, but yeah, it's that would have been our shuffle. It may also be on. It may be on the scratch off list. Let me look really quick. Because it is, I've seen it a number of times. It is really good. It's one that I wouldn't mind covering when we get the opportunity.
Yeah.
Scratch off horror. Come on, give me the. No, it's not. It is not on the. Yeah, it's not on the scratch off list. It kind of surprises me. I figured it probably would be, but we're gonna watch Scream 6 instead. I'm going to have a very happy daughter. Give us something to do this weekend because we clearly don't have anything else going on. So, all right. Well, for another week at Education, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
And we'll be back next week to talk about the last Scream movie that is currently out. They are working on a Scream 7. So we will be back to watch Scream 6. First time viewing for myself, as for my daughter. So Ella will be back. Ella will be back joining us as well. She's very excited because this is the only one I have not seen. So we will be experiencing it together. I can't wait to be asked 100,000 questions about a movie I've not seen before. So, all right. Well, you got anything to leave us with?
Nope. Just enjoy the weekend and stay warm as it's starting to get colder. I love this weather.
Yes, it is. So social media wise, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Like, comment, subscribe, all those things you're supposed to do. But for Education, I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.